Good morning and welcome to episode 44 of the Jaguar Report podcast. My name is Gus Logue. I'm here with my co-host Big Tuna. John, nice haircut. How are you doing?
Doing good, buddy. How you doing? I was doing good before the big tuna.
Yeah,
Doing slightly worse now, but still doing good nonetheless. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. Just trying to enjoy the off season with like so little going on. Like trying to enjoy the boredom a little bit. But
You watch anything good lately?
Gators baseball has been pretty good. They just set like a billion records last night.
Yeah.
Game 3 is tonight, so
Game 3.
when this podcast comes out, they'll be
Yeah.
champions.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
What about you? You've seen anything good?
Watched Mamma Mia, the movie.
Nice.
Yeah.
For the first time?
Yeah.
What? John, that's
Yeah.
a classic.
I don't know who the dad is.
Did you? The sequel's pretty good too, actually. I watched it in recent months.
That cost $2 on Amazon, so that's to be determined.
All right, that's fair.
It's not canon to me.
All right, well, let's get into it. Today, John and I are going to rank our top 10 receivers for the 2023 NFL season. On our last episode, we ranked top 10 quarterbacks, so you can check that out on all platforms and our YouTube page.
For the record, I am reigning champion.
Okay, yeah.
This is a results-based business.
Yeah, okay. We had a poll to see like whose top 10 was better on Twitter, and the last time I checked, it was like 75-25 in John's favor. Does that seem right? Did you check recently?
No, I'll give you 75-25. That seems
Oh, you'll give that to me? You'll
Yeah.
give me 5%?
That seems gentle.
All right, well, yeah, hopefully I was trying not to let subjectivity kind of
No. I followed the rules, and once again, I'm going to take the rules and turn them around on you.
Okay. All right, well, for this week, we're not considering – or are we considering contracts? I wasn't really considering.
I'm just going 10 best receivers.
Yeah, 10 best receivers like for the next year, straight up.
Let's do it.
Quarterbacks we did next 3 years, but this is just 2023. So per John's house rules, we're going to go from number 10 to number 1. You want to start us off?
Yeah, number 10. I kind of wish you were starting off now that I'm about to deliver it, but this is, non-bias or anything. I'm going Calvin Ridley, man. Let's get spicy. Okay. I think he's gonna. Yeah. Okay. I think he's gonna have a great season, dude. Literally the only thing I think that would stop him from having a good season is if he had looked like too rusty from like years removed of football and like he came back and was like injured and stuff like that. But he's looked great. And I mean, Zay Jones and Christian Kirk just had career years last year. And I would take pre-2021 Ridley over both of them. And I think he's going to be better than most receivers this year. That's my stamp of approval. That's my hot take.
Okay. Well, yeah, I didn't have him in my top 10, even though I did have a hot take recently. He's going to be top 3 in receptions, I think, or have over 100 receptions. One of those two. I'll have to go back into the archives for that. But so I'm with you that I think he's going to be awesome. And like I feel like I've seen a lot of stuff recently that's like, oh, him and Kirk are like 1A, 1B. Maybe I've been reading too many fantasy articles, but like I think you and I both expect it to be Calvin Ridley is a surefire number 1, and then it's kind of everyone else for the Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at their roster, like I would expect Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he threw almost 600 passes last year. I would expect that to, pretty much be, the same this year. And then last year, Marvin Jones had 81 targets. Zay Jones had 121. Christian Kirk had 133. So just insert Calvin Ridley in for all of Marvin Jones's 81, then take a little bit away from Kirk, a little bit away from from Zay. And I mean, that's a pretty healthy target share.
Yeah, I think
I'm not crazy. You're crazy.
We had talked before about how like it could like defer depending on the week, kind of like last year, like when Zane Ingram, especially, I feel like even Kirk too had like spike weeks, and so like it'll defer, but by the season end, like yeah, he's going to be pretty insane. And I agree with you that like injury is really the only thing I see preventing him from not meeting our expectations.
Can you get the hot take thing?
Yeah. All right. I'm ready.
Calvin Ridley will be a Pro Bowler. Hot take that one for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mark it down. Star.
Thank you for the accountability. Why you gotta put 2 stars?
Then I can see it when I look back at it.
Okay.
Come on, I got a system. We gotta stick to the system.
Okay.
All right, sticking to the system. My number 10 player is Terry McLaurin, which I also kind of like had wished that, or at least like we weren't starting 10-1 because like I kind of have an argument with him and then another player that I left out of my top 10. That was like kind of my snub.
Let's
So,
hear it.
all right, well, I left CD Lamb out of my top 10.
Ooh.
I had Terry McLaurin over him just because like CD is probably, I don't know, not to discredit myself immediately, but like he's definitely like in that range of like talent wise, but I think he just like benefits a little bit from scheme and like his quarterback and environment. And so I think that like if we were doing, I guess like if it was an average team like the exercise we did last week, I'd rather have Terry than CD. And I kind of just like am also just making a point because I think CD is again like in that range and a great receiver, but probably the most overrated receiver. That's like a Pro Bowler in my mind.
You calling CD a slot merchant?
Yeah, I think I am.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. It sounded like the polite way of saying he's slant boy
rather than just slants, but he's a little bit of a slant merchant.
Yeah. All right, I'll hear it. So Terry for number 10. I mean, what separates Terry, for you? And are you concerned at all that Jacoby Brissett is his team's best quarterback?
I'm not concerned. First of all, because Jacoby is okay, I guess. I can't even lie. He's fine. But yeah, I just think Terry's like more of an all-around player, and I've like got like some specialists like Tyreek Hill isn't a great example, but like how Tyreek Hill, he's not the best all-around receiver, but he's got some like freaky traits. But I feel like Terry is like he's extremely fast, and so I guess that would be his trait. But he's mostly just like an all-around receiver that can win at any level and win inside and outside. So I feel like he's like the same tier as CD, but like the fact that he's more scheme versatile and like I looked in the past 3 years since CD entered the league in 2020. Terry only has 3 fewer targets and 34 fewer yards. So, like, I guess technically that's a win in CD's book, but like they're pretty much neck and neck. And
yeah,
if it's like just one player versus another, like in a vacuum, I would like give a slight edge to Terry.
And CD's had much better quarterback play.
Yeah, like easily. And so
outside of Cooper Rush,
maybe there's a better way to separate it than targets and yards, but I don't know. He like the fact that he's had similar production on an objectively worse environment is kind of the point.
How close is Calvin Ridley to your top 10? Was he considered?
I wrote down like 8 other names that I was thinking about at the end of my list, and he wasn't one of them.
He was or wasn't?
Was not.
Okay.
Which is like.
Not only did you not invite him to dance, he wasn't even allowed into the auditorium.
I guess he probably. Oh, I kind of just forgot about him because my thing was like I was trying to do the same thing as last week, where like I think Trevor will end up being like the second best value, but like I just need to see slightly more. So like I need to see just like 1 week of him in a uniform before I like put him on like top 10 list.
True, you hate Jacksonville. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I think that like the whole thing about him like not seeing the field in 2 years has been like an overblown point, like as of now. But with that said, that's like kind of like what I'm using in my criteria for my list is that because it's been out for so long.
Like you don't make any bad points that I can argue against with logic. So it's number 9.
Yeah,
balls in your court.
Number 9, we're doing a little snake. I've got Jalen Waddle. Do you make your top 10?
Yeah, I'm doing the wall. Oh, is that
best celebration in the league? Honestly,
this is why you need to subscribe to YouTube. You can watch us, attempt to waddle.
They were both probably sub 5, sub 10. But that's how you watch.
Dude. I thought Jalen Waddle was like amazing coming out of Alabama, and he's been like exactly like what but that archetype of receiver, like pure speed guy, like that like Henry Ruggs was supposed to be and John Ross was supposed to be. He's like the best hit like in the NFL in like a long time.
Yeah, like I don't know if you just said, but John Ross, so like the list goes back like pretty far in. Like just like the angle eraser type of guy who's maybe not necessarily undersized, but just like has a smaller frame. But yeah, he's panned out and he's pretty electric. I think he set the league's rookie record for receptions, and then last year he was among the top of league leaders in both like traditional and advanced statistics. So he's pretty legit. And I think he'd be like still an alpha receiver without Tyreek Hill in Miami.
I can't disagree with him. That's why he's my number 9. I was really hoping.
So long.
I know. I was really hoping we could disagree. Debo was my number 11. Debo is the guy I leave off. But I mean, I love Waddle. I love his fit in that scheme, and chicks dig the long ball, and guys love the speed receiver. That's as Babe Ruth once said.
Okay, yeah, I see no wrongs there.
Yeah, so I mean, he just like, yeah, there are some aspects of his game. Like his rookie year definitely was inflated by they just threw him a million like screen passes, but I think last year he showed that he can be just as dangerous as Tyreek Hill. And like literally, the only thing he has to do is probably stay healthy.
I mean, I think targets are a pretty underrated stat. Like he got 100 screen passes for a reason. So like, I get your point.
Fair enough. All right, I got number 8.
Yeah.
Your favorite receiver? Yes.
My favorite receiver?
Yeah. CD. You just raved about it. See, I get it. I get it. Like you say, he's a slot merchant, but he's a really good one. Like I feel like he's more than just like Michael Thomas was obviously good at his peak, but everybody knew he wasn't like that good. And I think Lamb is probably better than like that. And he's better than I think like I think if Lamb was in Los Angeles, he puts up the Cooper Cup numbers. No?
I think he gets like pretty close. I think he like leads the league in like A category, but maybe not 3. Like Triple Crown is pretty insane.
Yeah. Like he'll probably never be like the best receiver in the NFL, but I think for where he was drafted, like he was drafted the teens?
Yeah. That's the point I was about to make is like I feel like there was a ton of hype put onto him. And again, maybe I'm thinking too much like with a fantasy lens. And like he's like met like where he was drafted because like he's objectively a top 12 receiver and he was picked in the teens, like you said. And so I don't know, but like some people were acting like he was gonna like walk out of the gates and be a top 5 receiver immediately. And I feel like he still isn't really close to that tier, even if he is a top 10 receiver.
That's true. I would never call him like a true like I think the next 7 guys I have, I think I would call like all true alpha receivers, and I think everybody else is on the outside of that. And I think he's like the best of that group. But I mean, I'd agree with you, to an extent. But then again, it was him, Jerry Jeudy, or Henry Ruggs, and Laviska Shenault.
I had a buddy go to college at Auburn, so I always ask him for like insight from like Auburn and Alabama and stuff because he pays close attention to football there. And he said like when he was a fan at Auburn, easily the like scariest weapon that Alabama had was Jalen Waddle out of like Ruggs and Jeudy and Devontae Smith. And so that kind of translated to the league.
Fans sometimes you got to find the right one. Fans always like have a really good insight to their team, but like when it comes to like knowing okay who's the best, out of these guys, fans are a good source, to go to.
Yeah, the ones that have like been longtime fans and like have good, they know what they're looking at. Yeah,
that's right.
So my number 8, right?
Yeah, let's go. Number 8.
Debo at number 8.
Yeah, Debo.
I got Debo because he just like I was looking up a bunch of stats before to try to I don't know be a little bit more objective and not just go based on like the highlights that I remember. I guess.
Yeah.
Because like I certainly didn't watch any film for this, but
sure.
He just like popped up in a lot more like advanced receiver stats than I expected, like yards per route run. Like it's not like he's just like great at like being like I don't know a unicorn a little bit, but a gadget player. Like he's not just like a glorified gadget player in terms of like he can run out of the backfield and like he has like an awesome like missed tackle stats, but he's also like really good at actually like lining up outside and like delivering over the middle of the field. And so I think he's like a better all-around player than a lot of people give him credit for. But he's also like arguably the funnest player in the league to watch, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I mean nothing you said was wrong, and I will say I'm a fan of Deebo Samuel strictly because he wanted for a period of time to be traded because they put him at running back too much. And for every tweet where people are like, just put receivers at running backs, Deebo can serve as a reminder that nobody actually wants to do that. That's
Absolutely not.
yeah. No, I mean Deebo's awesome. Like he had I guess a down year by his standards last year. Like that quote's out there. Like he said he had like a horrible year or something like that. I like I said, he was just outside like my top 10, and I really have nothing to be like, oh, this is why he wasn't in. Like I'm with you. He's like firmly in that like tier of guys who's like really really good, and he's also with like the perfect coach. Like Kyle Shanahan is like a Frankenstein of a offensive scheme guy.
That's definitely true. It's nice that they kind of got married together, but
It
yeah,
is
like Deebo and CD are kind of like in the same tier, and then I think you and I probably have the same names in the top 7 of like guys who could be like arguably the top receiver in the league.
Do we?
Maybe not. Who's your number 7, or is it my turn?
Well, here after these ads.
Okay.
We'll be right back. All right. Who you start with number 7?
Okay. That was a good transition. I completely forgot.
Thank you, guys.
All right, just let me know. Should I go now?
Yeah, you just go. Yeah.
I didn't know if we were like off for the ad. All right, my number 7 is Cooper Kupp, which I had a hard time like finding a spot for him. He was probably like the hardest guy for me to rank, just because, like again, winning like the triple crown and leading the league in receiving, catches, yards, and touchdowns is just bonkers. Steve Smith did it in like 2003, I want to say, and Jerry Rice was probably the last person to do it before him. So, and like even this past season in 2022, he was still having like an outrageous year, both efficiency wise and volume wise. And so like he's like a slot merchant, and he's a little bit older than like some
That's
of the
right.
other guys on the list. And like now the Rams are like contenders for the first overall pick, and we're probably like in tank mode or like hopefully quick rebuild mode for them. But like he's an alpha, he's like a number 1. So I had to like make sure I didn't leave him off the list or even put him in like the Deebo tier.
What team is he going to play for next year when Sean McVay retires and develop the team? Tampa.
Tampa.
Yeah.
What about Godwin? Are they just gonna swap?
What about who?
Chris,
Godwin.
yeah, they're like pretty similar players, honestly.
Okay, he's going to play for.
Crazy long speed, but they're just like awesome physical guys in the slot.
He's going to be a Tennessee Titan.
Ooh, that's a good one, actually. Yeah.
That's right. I got AJ Brown as my 7.
Okay.
I mean, he's like like you said. I think all these 7 guys like number 1s and are alphas, and AJ Brown is obviously like in the perfect offense for him because it's all like go balls and yards after the catch and stuff.
Yeah.
I just feel like 1-on-1, I'm probably trusting like the other guys on the list to win more consistently. I mean, you calling Cooper Kupp a slot merchant does explain why. He go right into it. He's number 6 on my list. Like the other guys, I would not call slot merchants, and it's sad that it's a derogatory term. And I'm sure Cooper Kupp, is more than he's obviously more than just that. But at the end of the day, I think like if there's a tier break, it's AJ Brown and Cooper Kupp, and then in my opinion, the next 5 guys on the list. But who's your number 6?
Oh no, I got the same thing. I kind of reacted surprisingly to your AJ Brown ranking, but I only had him
That's
one
right.
difference. He's my number 6, and Cooper's my number 7, and then you got the 2 of them flip flopped at 6 and 7. So, like, I think that like they could be in like a tier with like some of the next 2 or 3 guys on our list, but I definitely agree that there's a drop off like after those 2 names. And like you do have a point with AJ Brown where like I feel like he could run any route, but he's not asked to run every route. So like if we're like holding back Cooper Kupp a little bit for like not running outside on the perimeter, then that's fair.
I guess. I know I made the point, but I guess.
All right. My number 5 is Jamar Chase.
Ooh. Why do you hate Jamar Chase?
Because I have recency bias and haven't seen him play. in a few months. Maybe that's it, or a
Fair
few
enough.
months more than the other guys.
Fair
Like,
enough.
I think he like Justin Jefferson is kind of like in contention, or probably like most people would say he's the best receiver in the league, or like the best receiver in the league of the future. But I feel like I wouldn't be surprised at all if like Jamar Chase like overtakes him and has like a better career and even better like next 3 seasons, because he's a freak. But like I think it's like just like the other guys I have on the list have a little bit more production, a little bit more experience, and a little bit more credibility. So like you're definitely not going to be wrong for having Jamar higher than me, but that's just where I've got him for right now.
Fair enough. I mean, I got Stephon Diggs there, honestly. Like, I think Stephon Diggs is still going to be really, really good this year, but he's also the death knell season. I think he's going to be 30 this year. So I think it's honestly it's hard for me to even have Jamar Chase outside the top 3 because I mean he's had stupid production, the last couple years, but that I guess the big thing separating it for me is I think Chase can still get even better this year, whereas I think we've seen the best from Diggs so far. But Diggs is also one of my favorite receivers because he's due to throw a franchise into disarray at any moment. So I'm completely on board with him still being one of the best receivers.
Totally. All right, is it my turn, or do you have 3 or 4?
That's right.
I think
I
you have
got 4.
4.
I got 4. I got Devontae.
Ooh,
Ooh,
okay.
all the way down at 4. I
Oh,
know.
at 4. Why do you hate Devontae Adams?
I I feel bad for the guy he pushed. No,
That poor cameraman.
like I said, it's literally this is more of a Jamar Chase ranking than Devontae Adams ranking because it's literally nothing against Devontae Adams other than the fact that he's no longer playing with Aaron Rodgers, but he's still a really good receiver. I mean his first half against Tyson Campbell last year was like a crazy good performance, and Derek Carr, in my opinion, was not good last year. So he was like putting up like a 100-yard game in the first half without stellar quarterback play against a really good corner. So he's still obviously really good, but he's not my top 3 good.
Wow. Okay. Well, my number 4 is Diggs. I just have him above Chase because, in terms of like an argument for one-on-one with them, I think the argument for Diggs is that he's like kind of a one-man show. Like they've had like a rotating door of like supporting cast players in Buffalo. I feel like between Cole Beasley and John Brown the second time, and Gabe Davis, who just like wasn't really healthy last season. Emmanuel Sanders. They just drafted Don Kincaid. But like obviously Josh Allen is like reason number 1 for how good Buffalo has been the past few years, but Diggs is easily number 2. He's just put up like such insane volume stats and is like so clearly like the like what makes that offense go and like the key to it basically. So, and like I heard someone talking, I think it was Steven Ruiz on the Ringer pod, like even when he faces the Patriots, like Bill Belichick like can't figure out a way to stop him. And like Belichick is like known for like being able to bracket receivers and like shut down opposing offenses like best weapon, and he still hasn't figured it out against Diggs. And like even since he was in Minnesota, like I've always been a huge advocate for him because I thought he was like underrated then, and so now I'm just trying to give him his flowers before he like gets on the wrong side of 30.
Anybody who hit on him coming out of Maryland should like never shut up because I remember like there were people who were big fans of him, coming out of college, and I personally can't remember watching him at all or having
Yeah,
any take on him. But like you said, the kind of receiver he's been, since the Minnesota days, like I remember the arguments of like him against Thielen and me. I always lean Diggs just because he seems so much cooler, and
yeah.
so. What do you buy credence to the idea that obviously neither one of us follows Buffalo very much, but I guess from the media reports and stuff, his problem in Buffalo is like basically Ken Dorsey and his role in the offense. Here's my question to you: is that because Gabriel Davis is awful? UCF doesn't claim him. I don't claim him for
He had
UCF.
a high sprain last year. Like he'll be fine. I guess he had some like gruesome drops, but like I think he can like still last in the league for a couple more years. It's not like he's that bad.
I wanted them to take a receiver. I don't love the Kincaid pick.
Yeah, neither do I. Like they got 2 receivers last year, I think, but they were just like small slot guys who haven't really done much.
Fair enough. All right, who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Tyreek Hill.
Ooh.
Yeah. Uh, I I don't really like. He's very fast. I don't really know what to say here. Like he's just been one of the best receivers for at least 5 years now, and the like credit to him for being able to switch systems and go from one of the best deep throwers in the league to one of the worst. Which like I saw that like Next Gen Stats had like a bunch of articles for like their best players at each position. So like, or they did best deep throwers for quarterbacks, and two was like I think he was top 5, but he was definitely on the list, which is just hilarious because like sure he had like good stats from throwing deep, but like there was so many ducks and like he had to throw so early, like after he got the ball in order to like give the receivers just time to run under it. So it was funny to see like Tua marked as a good deep passer, but it's like Tyreek Hill just like solves it regardless.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I had Chase 3, and then going to number 2, I had Tyreek Hill. Like I think, them, and obviously who I'm expecting us both to, probably have number 1, are I think the 3 like most dangerous receivers in football. I think like Chase is just pretty much impossible to cover, like on vertical routes unless you devote several guys in coverage to him. Like he dictates entire coverages, and I, I will take the complete L on him. I thought he was good coming out of LSU. I never thought for a second that he was going to be like one of the best receivers in the NFL, and that was completely me being an idiot because he's obviously supremely gifted, and like I think T Higgins is really good. Like T Higgins probably after Debo is like the next guy I would have put like in this top 10,
Yeah.
and he still is like obviously the better receiver than T Higgins. So and
Yeah,
then
he's just like so different. It's like he moves different. He like just makes everything look so much easier than it is, and like moves at a different speed. And yeah,
he's still really young too.
yeah. What do you think he is? Like 22?
I think he's like 22. Shows you the research that we do here at the Jaguar Report podcast. But my intuition is that he's 22 or 23.
He turned 23 in March.
See, so if you're listening to this in February, he was 22.
What? All right, if you got a time travel guy, you got to hook me up because I don't know how that would happen. But is it whose turn is it?
It's your turn. Give me your number 2. It's Devontae Adams, huh?
It's Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna like spoil it a little bit and say that I've Devontae Adams at 1, and so like anyone that puts Jefferson at 1 and Adams at 2 is like not wrong in my book. But the reason for me is I just feel like the number 1 player at the position is kind of like a hill that you stay on for a while, and like you can't just like get knocked off that easily. Like I just feel like Tay is like the best receiver of the past 7 or 8 years since Julio. Like it goes like Calvin Johnson, Julio, Devontae Adams for like best receiver in the league crowns. And so I feel like having the number 1 rank is like something you just like don't take or give up very easily. And like I fully expect Justin Jefferson to take it this year if he hasn't already. But like this is just like me giving Devontae Adams his flowers, I guess.
That's fair enough. I personally think Jefferson took it last year. Like I think he's already an MVP type player at position, but Devontae Adams is ridiculously good. There's literally like no drop off in his play going from Joe Rogan to Derek Carr last year.
You don't think it was Hall of Fame to Hall of Fame?
And if Devontae Adams like puts up outrageous numbers with Jimmy G this year, then I'll concede to you that he's still the king. But I don't know. I just give Justin a slight bump
here is because like I don't expect him to be the king. Like if we do these rankings again next offseason, because I'm like I don't really have enough. I had enough trust in Derek Carr, and that was fine. But I don't have enough trust in Jimmy G, especially now with like the recent injury concerns that have popped up. But I do have some stats back on my argument. Since Jefferson entered the league in 2020, Adams still ranks first in targets, receptions, and touchdowns, and second in yards behind only Jefferson. But that's yards is the only stat that Jefferson is top 3 in over the past 3 years.
The most important step.
Well, then last year, Jefferson was first in targets, or no, receptions and yards on his way to Offensive Player of the Year. But Adams still had more touchdowns than him and any other wide receiver. So like, kind of similar to like my Terry and CD argument. Like their production is like pretty similar, and so then like I'm just keeping Adams on top until he's like definitely off of it.
You and your numbers.
I'm just trying to. I got good arguments. I'm trying to win this poll. Okay.
You do make good arguments. I have a question for you.
Okay.
If the Jaguars would have drafted Justin Jefferson in 2020, would they have still finished with the worst record in the NFL?
No.
No.
I
So
don't
he would have swung a game.
Yeah, like I think like if you did like a multiverse video of like Jaguars, like where things could branch off in history, if they selected Justin Jefferson over Caleb Chase in 2020, then that like changes the whole trajectory of the franchise.
See, I think they still finished with the worst record.
Yeah.
I think they finished with the same record. But
I'm not going to argue against it. They were not a real NFL team.
I don't know, man. I love Jefferson. I don't know if he swings a full game. I remember thinking when they were on the clock that he was going to be the pick, and there was plenty of smoke around it. And then you hear LSU, and then a bunch of ringing noises, and sirens going off, alarms, etc. And here we are today. So we will be right back after this next ad. Just bear with us. We'll be right back. All right, guys. We gave our top 10 list. We'll leave it up to the people, the listeners, to decide who's the ranking champion.
Mm-hmm.
For now, I still have the belt around my chiseled waist.
Okay, yeah. Hold on for now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't you tell us what we got next?
All right. I'm trying to look up some Jefferson stats.
Oh God, let it go. Let it go.
You would have given them a win.
Let it
go. Our second segment for today is what could go right and what could go wrong for the Jaguars in 2023.
I know what could go wrong for us, and that was for me to ask that Justin Jefferson question. You are obsessed, my friend.
I've got.
Let's hear it. I know, because I know we won't be able to move on. Let's hear it.
I was trying to find a WAR statistic for his rookie year, and I couldn't find it. So we're gonna move on. The first thing I have for the offensive side of the ball for what could go wrong is the offensive line doesn't hold up, both in terms of like setting protection and then like short distance. And so I feel like the Jags like went lengths to improve both aspects, like both in like getting better like short yardage running backs and then getting like a great pass protecting prospect in Anton Harrison to replace Jawan Taylor. But like last year in both games against the Chiefs, honestly, but especially in the playoff game when they lost, like protection against Steve Spagnuolo's blitzes was pretty key. Like there was a couple like free rushers and Lawrence was under pressure for a lot of the game. And then like the short distance stuff is just like something that's like almost like not super similar to fumbles, but like fumbles are like kind of just like a luck of the draw for like where it bounces and how lucky you are to recover them. And so like short distance can kind of be like a luck factor, kind of like red zone, or just in that it's like kind of goes up and down from year to year. But like in terms of just like flaws that the offense can have, like, and I'm just nitpicking, like short yardage situations, if the offensive line can and can't hold up, is like a potential shortcoming in my eyes.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely fair. I said on an interview on a different podcast earlier, I think like the Jaguars short yardage stuff, especially their goal line running, isn't looking good after like the first quarter of their season. I don't think Doug Peterson will be afraid to, make some kind of change, whether it's change the formula on the offensive line, maybe let Tank Bigsby get more run in those situations. I still think it's like they got really lucky in my opinion with injuries last year at the skill positions. Like other than a handful of games from Zay and Kirk, like their receiver depth really did not get tested until the Kansas City game when we saw Christian Kirk get hurt late and Jamal Agnew ends up going in a spot. Agnew ends up having that game deciding fumble. It was in short because it was such a top heavy receiver room. I guess now the question is, adding Calvin Ridley to the mix, how much can that help them kind of sustain that depth? Because it's hard. We saw with 2017, 2018 squads, it's hard to be super healthy 2 years in a row.
Definitely, yeah. Like we said it before, health is a pretty major storyline for the Jags this year. I wrote that down originally and then didn't bring it up just because I feel like you could say injury as an excuse for anything, but you are right to point out the depth there. So it's a fair point.
Like I obviously, the hype, everything's moving positively for Trevor Lawrence, but have we seen a game yet where Trevor Lawrence go win a game where Tim Jones is one of your starting receivers? No, like I'm being serious.
Oh, I was trying to think back to his rookie season if that happened.
Okay, that doesn't count. We don't talk about those. We don't talk about that year.
We're not time traveling back there.
No. I'd rather never think about that year again. Hated it.
All right, well, back to 2023.
Let's hear it.
Is there another thing you have for what could go wrong for the offense?
Like you said, offensive line. I think really the interior offensive line, getting the left guard position settled. Is it going to be Tyler Shatley? Is it going to be Ben Barch? Is it going to be Walker Little when Cam Robinson comes back? Because it really doesn't seem like they're going to keep Cam Robinson's contract off the field. And then, obviously the other two positions, center, Luke Fortner, he looks like he has, the players that you wanted to see, get stronger and get bigger. He looks like he has done that. Coaches say that, he's gotten stronger this offseason, but it won't be until the season starts that we really see. And then Brandon Sheriff, it seems like he's the guy everybody nationally wants to ding, likes to ding on the offensive line. I think PFF said he gave up 6 sacks last year, which is the most he gave up. But I don't know. He had a few down moments, but I still feel like run blocking wise, he really opened up a lot for them. So I still feel like he's kind of the consistent part of the line.
I agree. I feel like it was just a less consistent season than he's had in the past, but it's fair because he's getting older. And to his credit, he did finish the full season. So yeah, he's definitely what makes the running game go. And he's kind of used as a weapon in the running game, the run against the Chargers, the James Robinson 60-yarder when Sheriff pulled around. So he's definitely a pretty key piece.
100%.
The only other thing I had written down was Trevor gets in a funk, which I don't really expect to happen since he proved he can get out of it twice last year. Once it was a season funk, he had the bad Broncos game in London, and that was a stretch of some not great games, and then he turned it around for the second half of the season. And then against the Chargers in a single game sample, throwing 4 interceptions in one half and then throwing 4 straight touchdowns. So if he gets in a funk, I don't think it'll be too much of a problem for him to get out of it. But I feel like all young quarterbacks, as great as they are, can get into a funk.
Are the Jaguars good enough to win with Trevor Lawrence in a funk?
The majority of games, yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Okay.
I think unless the opposing defense also happens to have a great run defense,
yeah,
and the Jags offense can't get anything going, then there'd be some concern. Or if they're just going up against a great offense and the defense, or the Jags can't keep up. But I would say more than 50% of games, they would still have a solid chance of winning.
Fair enough.
As 200, 250 yards.
Fair enough.
But again, I don't really expect that to happen. I'm continuing to nitpick because.
No, I've made a mental note that that's exactly what you expect to happen.
No.
And I'm going to hold it against you.
No.
Yeah, the pain on your face.
I'm writing it down, and I know you're not writing it down. So we'll see if that mental note pops back up.
Yeah? Yeah, the notepad of the century. Yeah.
John's threatening me by holding up his phone for the
That's right.
YouTube watchers.
That's right.
All right. So for what could go right on offense, Calvin Ridley.
That uh, I'll be honest. I think Travis Etienne can be a lot better this year. That
Yeah.
seems like the consensus when you talk to the coaches in the building. Like Doug Peterson mentioned it at the combine. He was like, basically, we could have our running backs in general be better about hitting the holes we're designed to hit, running with vision and stuff. And then again, in OTAs, they've talked about how much better they expect ETN to be. It almost seems like even though he had, the 1,500 yards from scrimmage last year, they're like, it was an okay, season, which is, it was his first NFL season, and there was, I remember his first preseason game. It was like, okay, things are moving way too fast for this dude. It slowed down as the season went. He hit those big runs, but you can definitely tell that there's still some more maturation needed. And they think it's happened so far this offseason. I think if it has, that can help be the answer to can they win if Trevor Lawrence ever gets in the funk?
Right. I think he's probably progressed better health or physical wise as well as like
Sure.
mentally. Like hopefully he'll be able to like the game will slow down for him and he'll be able to hit holes more better. But like in terms of his health, I feel like for a lot of major injuries to your leg, like it takes like 2 years or like the second season returning from the injury, not just the first season, to like really seem like you're back to yourself. And I feel like Etienne's like acceleration was definitely there last year, but like he broke off one 50-plus yard touchdown, I think, against the Texans in like week 16. And so he definitely had like plenty of other like huge gains, but it wasn't necessarily like the true breakaway speed that we saw at Clemson. And so I think like just all around he could get better, and I agree he's in for a big year. I feel like we're talking about health as a storyline. Like I feel like I heard Chad Muma and Devin Lloyd, and I feel like someone else talk at minicamp about how like their bodies just like wore down over the course of the NFL season because it's such a long season compared to college. Um, and so I feel like that might have happened a little bit with ETN. And so my point is that like Tank Bigsby could almost be like a positive to ETN's production, just to like be someone to give him rest, and so that ETN can have like a not like workhorse workload, but a big workload with like crazy efficiency.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, I really don't expect Tank to eat in the ETNs carries like that, dude. I was on a fantasy podcast earlier, and they said some people are taking Tank like in the third round of fantasy drafts. And I'm like, bro, what are y'all doing?
They must have meant dynasty because that would be crazy. That's like where ETN.
I didn't ask.
You just smile and wave, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So like ETN could kind of have a jump, not just Trevor. And then as long as Calvin is what we expect, like.
And I mean, I feel like we're both expecting Trevor Lawrence to just like improve in year 3. Like, is there any reason to think that he doesn't?
No.
Yeah. Like I think he's going to be much better this year than he was last year, which is still wild because last year he had one of the best seasons in the franchise's, history at the position.
Like you already expect young players to get better after each year, but quarterbacks specifically have like a significant jump in year 3 more than any other year, I believe. And then it's also like year 2 with Peterson, and it's like the first time Lawrence will have like 2 consecutive seasons of one system since Clemson or maybe even high school, honestly. So like the continuity is huge, and then like going into year 3 is huge, and then getting an alpha receiver, like we've seen how big of an impact it's been for like Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, plenty of other examples, I'm sure. So yeah, definitely expecting a jump.
Fair enough. No, defense. I mean, what I really think the best thing, like, starting with best case scenario, is that they once again are like a super turnover lucky defense. Like, I don't think you can ever count on turnovers like year to year to carry over. Like we saw 2017, how many turnovers they generated, and then the next year the defense was still really good. They just weren't nearly as lucky, and they generated like I think like a third of the turnovers and takeaways.
Yeah.
I think that's like the best possible path for them this year is to just generate those takeaways like Rayshawn Jenkins as much as he did last year, Tyson Campbell. Darius Williams hasn't had an interception in 2 seasons, which is kind of wild. And it felt like the Jets game alone, he could have had 3 last year. So maybe converting on some of those.
Yeah.
Andre Cisco, Cody Graham, the safeties coach, even said, he was like, if Cisco caught a couple of the passes he didn't intercept last year, he would have had a Pro Bowl numbers and stuff. So just stuff like that, I think, is probably the best case scenario what could lift them.
I would say on top of that, just the development from second-year players and young players, because I feel like Jaguars brass has been beating that drum the whole offseason about especially since people were criticizing them about the lack of additions on defense.
Yeah.
But they keep talking about how much they're relying on their young players to continue growing, and didn't they even count Foye as a second-year player?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So I don't know how much he'll really get better since he's led the league in tackles back-to-back years, but Trayvon Walker, Devin Lloyd, Chad Muma, Andre Cisco. I also don't know how much better Tyson Campbell can really get, but he's another young player who could keep taking a step. So, they're going to need, true development from Trayvon Walker and Devin Lloyd. And then if Lloyd is awesome and if Cisco is awesome, that's kind of a cherry on top.
That, to me, it goes right into, the negatives, what could happen that they don't fulfill their potential is if Trayvon and Devin, don't each take a leap, or even if a combination, having one of them to take a leap, it wouldn't be great, but you could live with it. But if neither one of them does, that, I don't know if they could stomach that. I get Chad Muma's insurance, but they need Devin Lloyd to be more than just a linebacker.
Definitely. He's I feel the most conflicting player on defense, or I don't know. It's easy to say Trayvon Walker is the X factor, but just I feel Devin Lloyd has such a wide range of outcomes that could happen this coming season that could sway the defense so much.
Who's more likely to take the leap this year?
I would say definitely Trayvon, but also Trayvon almost needs to take a leap to an above average / great player. Whereas Devin Lloyd, I feel if he just makes a leap to an average / above average player, you just can't be the weakness is you can't be a problem. That's really what I'm asking from him.
You're literally just asking for him to be able to line up.
Yeah. Okay. That brings me to my other point of what could go wrong, which is finishing in terms of that's one of my other points. But for the depth point, having no weaknesses is what I'm trying to say. We've talked about depth a lot this offseason with kind of the questions at edge rusher and cornerback. And I think we're going to mostly forget about that during the regular season. But then the playoffs is what could go wrong in the playoffs is they're playing elite quarterbacks and elite play callers who know how to exploit each tiny weakness. Because I feel defense is more about not having a weak link than it is having just a couple monstars. So kind of fixing up those weak links at edge and then linebacker with Lloyd and then cornerback for the playoffs is going to be big.
I really think that outside of those guys that we talked about not taking a leap and outside of what you said, I think more than ever they need Josh Allen to be that top 7 pick that he was.
A dude.
They need him more this year, and I think they did last year, which is wild to say.
Yeah, I think he's another guy who's interesting to talk about in terms of the jump he can make and how much more he could really go. Because I feel he could ascend to the number 5 edge rusher in the league. It's just a matter of doing it consistently.
He is a fascinating case because he's both extremely, in my opinion, criminally underrated and also not as good as he should be, which should not make any sense. But to me, he's a top 15 edge in the NFL. He's a good run defender. He gets good pressure numbers. Sacks obviously aren't great, but snap to snap, he's impactful. But you look at him, like I said, you look at the pressure numbers, you look at his traits, what he does against the run, and you ask, why isn't he getting, double-digit sacks? But I also think, a lot of Jags fans think that he's not even, a top, 30, edge rusher when he's clearly very good.
Yeah, I would say he's easily top 20, and I would agree that he's top 15. I feel it's interesting because he and Trayvon are, not similar at all in terms of, their plan with the pass rush, where Trayvon, needs to develop something other than a bull rush. But like Allen actually has like a pretty wide array of moves, and so again, it's just a matter of like putting it together a lot more consistently, and not just showing flashes in year 4 and 5.
Who has the third most sacks on the team this year, assuming Allen and Trayvon have the first 2?
Roy Robertson Harris.
Okay.
I think Calvin and Yasir like both have potential, like make noise and like rack up a handful and like be solid contributors, but I feel like they're also like designated pass rushers who like could easily end the season with like 1 or 2 or 0 sacks.
Put it on the board. You expect a career year from Calvin Chason. Put it on the dang board.
Who do you got at 3?
Von Hamilton.
Ooh.
Yeah. Breakout year as a pass rusher.
Give him, honestly, but
yeah. Breakout year as a pass rusher. And then we can rank our favorite sacks of the 4 that he records.
All right, that's a plan.
Yeah.
The finishing point I was going to make was the last one. It's just like in terms of what could go wrong. Like last year, the Jags had a really good pressure rate and not a good sack rate. So finishing in terms of bringing down quarterbacks, but also in terms of just bringing down ball carriers in general, because like Rayshawn was like had the second most missed tackles in the league, and Devin Lloyd wasn't far behind him, and Foye I think had a decent amount too. And then I feel like Cisco didn't have like a ton in terms of numbers, but I feel like he's similar to Rayshawn in terms of like they play so fast, like they easily just like whiz by guys sometimes.
Yeah,
so cleaning up like missed tackles and then converting pressures to sacks is like a big thing that could sway the defense either like right or wrong.
I don't have the exact number on hand, but when assistant coaches did their media day, interviews and stuff, yeah, Brinson Buckner said they missed over 20 sacks last year, and he implied that a good chunk of those were Trayvon Walker. So, and he was like, if they get half of those, nobody's asking me about, pass rush, which fair enough.
All right, so Trayvon Walker, minus 20 sacks under Buckner expectation.
I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to.
I need a good expected stat for you a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you got any parting hot takes for us?
No, I don't think so. I feel like my hot take was probably just Terry McLaurin is a top 10 receiver.
Did you have a hot take this episode? I'm not going to force you to have one.
No. I didn't set one up, so I'm not going to force it since we're writing them down now.
Okay.
I'll say something about Terry McLaurin. I'll say
you don't have to.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you don't have to.
I'm going to bring it up randomly next offseason.
Yeah. You can keep it, holster it, come back with one next time. No pressure.
But, 2 for the next podcast.
No pressure, but yeah, definitely have a hot take next week. I kid. Well, I'm John Shipley. Gus, you got anything to say before we head out?
See you next time.